Earlier today, the courts, sitting virtually, listened to the counter application from Cecilia Dapaah in response to the seizure of her accounts, about which the OSP is given a right temporarily and momentarily to keep until a court process is done. Now, the courts sat today, and the indication is that judgment will be given on 31st of August. Now, the judgment will determine whether the OSP can continuously keep Cecilia Dapaah's accounts on hold, or Cecilia Dapaah will be allowed to access the account. In expressing her counterclaims, Cecilia Dapaah converted her defense now into attack, and we have looked at all the paragraphs of the affidavit, and we've put it together in a way that can make communication sense, because it's very legalistic, so we had to do that work. All right. So this is Cecilia Dapaah and her husband, and there was a story today that Cecilia Dapaah's husband was also actually arrested by the OSP, because people were asking questions about why the OSP arrested Cecilia Dapaah and did not arrest the husband. So he was also arrested. Now, this is the two protagonists in the matter before the court: the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the Honorable Cecilia Dapaah, and Cecilia Dapaah, the complainant in what has now become the infamous theft case in a minister's house. So Cecilia Dapaah, the deponent herein, just means that the person who is making the statement is responding to the case of the special prosecutor, asking for a confirmation of the freezing order issued by the OSP and opposing to same. That the statutory period for the bringing of the application has elapsed. According to Section 32(2) of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, the OSP is given 7 days after seizing assets to bring the application to confirm the seizure of the order. Okay, I get it now. So it's the OSP who has to take the application to court to confirm the seizure. Cecilia Dapaah is opposing the application. So it's not Cecilia Dapaah who is responding. It's the OSP who, when he has seized their assets, within 7 days he has to go to court with an application. It is that application that she's opposing. So I get the concept now. All right, so we move on. She's quoting the OSP Act and saying that in the OSP Act, the OSP is given 7 days after seizing the assets to bring the application to confirm the seizing order. The OSP seized the accounts on 24th of July 2023, yet brought the application for the confirmation of the seizing order 8th of August, 16 whole days after the assets were seized. So she's alleging a violation of the OSP's own act, that when the OSP does something, this was supposed to do, and she's alleging a clear violation of it. That's going to be very interesting, isn't it? If that's what the OSP did, that is very, very interesting. Okay, we move on. Cecilia Dapaah continues. She says that the OSP acted contrary to Section 40 of the Act. The said section makes it permissible for the OSP to apply to confirm the freezing of accounts when the subject of the order is under investigation for corruption or corruption-related offenses. Since I am not under investigation, then the application cannot be granted. Okay, this is Cecilia Dapaah's explanation. She said that she's not under investigation, and therefore the application for the OSP to freeze her assets cannot be granted. I understand that the OSP has now said that they are investigating. I understand that. I don't know whether it's a response to this or it came before, but I understand the OSP has now said they are investigating her. Okay, so let's move on. So she's claiming on a few grounds. Her first ground of her opposition to the application is that the application was lodged more than 7 days, which is the permissible period within the OSP's own act for such an application to go to the court. She says that she's alleging that the application came 16 whole days after. And so that's her first ground, asking the court to deny the OSP's application. Ground number 2, she says she's not under investigation, and then one must be under investigation for this to occur. Quite clearly, the OSP can't say that she's investigating her. So we don't know how that will go. Let's move on to the third ground. She continues that the assertion by the OSP that the statement issued by Cecilia Dapaah on the 21st of July about the inconsistencies, quote unquote, in the report, in the media, and the facts of the case is misleading. Whereas the OSP is interpreting the use of the wording inconsistencies to mean inconsistency in the sums of the money complained of, what Cecilia Dapaah meant was inconsistency in the report on the ownership of the money and not the amount. Okay, she's bringing some clarification that when she said there was inconsistencies, she was talking about the clarification of the money and not the amount of the money, because the OSP wrote that Cecilia Dapaah said there was inconsistencies, and I think there was no inconsistencies. And she's making reference to the fact that she didn't mean the amount of the money, she meant the ownership inconsistencies. Okay. She continues that the assertion of the OSP that the money found in my home is as a result of criminal activity is without factual basis, and the OSP has not been able to determine the extent and nature of the criminal intelligence that the OSP acted on. Furthermore, the OSP has failed to avert his mind to the fact that the monies in the bank accounts were monies that had been there even before my becoming a Minister of State. Oh, that's interesting. That the OSP seized the money first and then purported to rely on the Attorney General's advice given after the seizure of the money. Okay, so that's, okay, we get it, that's interesting. So Cecilia Dapaah is saying that when the OSP alleges that the money that she has is from dubious sources, he hasn't established anything to be able to make that conclusion. And that the monies he found in the bank accounts, he should have known that some of them, that those monies were in the accounts before she became a Minister of State. Though these are the two things that she's saying in criticizing the OSP's basis for seizing her bank accounts. And she says also that the OSP seized the bank accounts and then now purported to rely on the Attorney General's advice after the seizure to come and seize her account. Said that the OSP came in, searched her house, then now relied on Attorney General's advice to come and seize her account. And she finds that also incongruous. It has to be noted that the Attorney General refrained from passing judgment on the matter by refraining to determine who the owners of the sums of money are. She's saying, she's commending the Attorney General that she refrained from the matter by not saying who the monies are. She said that matter should be investigated. So this is where we are on the matter. It's 17 minutes past 10 o'clock. So now the story is building up gradually. We will be able to unravel everything. And then we'll come to understand that the principle of innocent until proven guilty is almost like a fundamental human right. And nobody, no office holder, no authority should attempt to abuse that principle, innocent until proven guilty. Because by the time you finish listening, you will see. That's why in law they say audio term pattern. Listen to both sides. No, don't take one side. But propagandists are with us, and they are useful because they help us to laugh and to think and to engage. So propagandists are always going to run things in one direction for political gain and political end. That's okay. But time is always the tester. Time is the common denominator. In the fullness of time, therefore, everything will unravel. And then we'll all come back and say that, oh, we shouldn't have. The other day, no less a person than Martin Amidu was now critical of the killings of 1979, 50, 60 years after. Martin Amidu, a Keda, was expressing, and in defense of Cecilia Dapaah, was now saying that we should be careful that we don't do what happened in 79. These are the same events that he supported. All the Kedas supported, let the blood flow. But several years later, he comes to the conclusion that that was wrong, because sometimes people act on emotion and generations follow so that we can learn from the generations past of what has happened. That's why Martin Amidu is cautioning us. Don't let this Cecilia Dapaah matter become like the 1979, where we caught people and without evidence, and in this charade, we shot them and killed them, but they were corrupt. It turned out that they were not corrupt at all. It turned out that the people who actually killed them became much more corrupt.